Heart first leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome back to the Integrated Mindset Podcast. I am Ryan Sawyer, your host, along with my wife, Heidi Sawyer. Thank you for being here, Heidi.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's beautiful outside today. It's snowing. I didn't know it was supposed to snow. We have like 10 days of snow forecasted. I love this time of year for so many reasons. But number one reason why I love it is because it's a time to slow down and to remove anything that is not absolutely necessary and to declutter to a certain degree, which here we are going to have a conversation in I don't know how many different ways we have found ways to declutter over the last how many years. In the last week or two, we had some experiences, and we'll see where this conversation goes. But we're going to talk about this idea of making room for space, to have a feeling of spaciousness in our lives. To declutter means to create what we call the void. And the void is where we get to decide what we want to then digest, what we want to experience, what we want to draw in or create in our lives. So we're going to start with this conversation from the physical realm. We'll then move it into more of the emotional domain potentially. And depending on time, we'll watch our time a little bit here. We may even unpack a little bit of the spiritual component of what is possible, which is my favorite part. So Heidi likes the physical conversation, and I love the spiritual conversation. But they're all integrated and intertwined with each other. So I'm going to pass the mic to you, my dear, to begin this conversation of decluttering, because I love to watch you declutter.
That's an odd thing to say, but yeah.
No, but in the physical realm, I mean, we came to this place however many years ago when we have moved. I don't know how many times in the last like 7 years, 4 times, something like that in the last 7 years. It's been a lot between Ballesteros and Limerick, and then, on and on we go. But I guess it's been 3 times in the last 7 years. Yeah. Either way, we are like, oh, do we need this? Are we using it? Have we used it in the last however many months? Like, no, goodbye. And, our garage, storage rooms, whatever, it's just easy to accumulate stuff that we then have to move around. We have to look at. It steals our energy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I think just last night you noticed something. There was like a handprint or something on one of the door jambs going into one of the rooms, and you're like, what is that? Who reached up and touched that door jamb? Got like fingerprints on it. And I think it's just because when you clear your space, you have more room to notice things that otherwise, if you have a lot going on, you wouldn't notice. And I like to declutter my physical space throughout the year, but especially when Christmas decorations start coming out, I think that's a great time to remove some things, because what we can tend to do is like layer things on top of each other. And it's interesting when you're looking at your life from a viewpoint of wanting to be really efficient with your time, and being able to organize things in a way where you're maximizing your efficiency. You're not having to look for things, spend time. My kids recently, our kids just went through a purge of their bedrooms. And my son, who is kind of the messier one of the two, said, wow, I just walked by his bedroom last night, I think it was. And he's looking around, and I said, hey, what's going on, buddy? Going to go to bed? I'm just looking around because it just feels so good to know where everything is.
Right. And know where it came from. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that our physical space is an extension of our inner world, and it's an expression of our inner world. And so when we have a lot going on in our physical space, it tends to clutter up our mind. And if we have a lot going on in our mind, we tend to leave a lot of things undone and a lot of things around, and kind of feel disorganized and disoriented. And that can add to our stress level.
So we're starting this conversation with the idea that we can declutter our actual physical spaces. So this could be like legitimately cleaning out your car, right? To give yourself that sense of like, oh, it's clean. That feels good. I like how that feels. I feel a little bit of space because all the game boards, all the board games are organized in this closet. And because, I went through and I cleaned out the fridge and got rid of all the the things that maybe had been there a little too long, you know what I mean? Or, those things, they pile up over time. Our spaces become cluttered. So we have to go through that experience of decluttering, of getting rid of things we don't need or want, right? Mm-hmm. Even if there's things that we tend to keep for like keepsake, for example, for me personally, one of the biggest forms of decluttering has been to get rid of all of my memorabilia from a past life. I mean, I still have my rings from the coaching days, the national championship ring, but I don't have anything else. I didn't save any of the jerseys or helmets or all the different posters and pictures and all the things. And what was interesting is that there was this emotional release when every single time I either gave something away, bagfuls of clothes, of, zip ups and pullovers, and I mean, endless, whole closet full of gear, of athletic gear. But there was this emotional detachment that happened as I got rid of things that I didn't need, and nor did I really want or made sense for me even to have anymore. And that was interesting to watch, how it's like almost this little bit of form of like grieving happening. But then on the other side of that was this experience of space, like, oh, it's nice for not just the physical space to be cleaned out, but it lends towards there being a little bit more space internally, emotionally as well. So
yeah, and you could take that to whatever level you want. I mean, there's all kinds of movements around minimalism and really fine-tuning, your wardrobe and the things that you use in your kitchen, and just really sort of paring that down. So you can take that as far as you want to. You just have to kind of decide as you go what's right for you. And I like the process of questioning things. I like the process of, looking at something and thinking, how can I make this more functional? How can I make however I'm using this space or this area more efficient? And then when I come across something that doesn't feel like it belongs there, asking myself, when was the last time I used this? And do I even like this piece of clothing, or is this even a useful item? And then blessing somebody else with it. And I think that that's the other thing about this time of year, as we're heading into the, Christmas time season, is that we can bless other people by donating things or giving them away, and creating that spaciousness for ourselves at the same time.
Well, and so I didn't mention this in the beginning, but I want to mention it now, because as you're talking, it made me think about like to make any sort of change possible, and to recognize we want to have a different experience of ourselves or the world or life in general, we have to first create space to make that possible. Otherwise, we're going to be trying to, put icing on a piece of poop, basically, right? I mean, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work, right? We have to be able to create space. We have to let things go. So, for example, we're coming into this time of year where there's a narrative that's happening that it's really stressful. There's more going on. So we have to be okay with the fact of like potentially pulling back in some areas of our life so we can then spend more time with family and spend more time, with friends and to create that space. Because what we gain when we let go of things, when we remove the clutter from our physical space, from our mental and emotional space, is we gain back time. and we gain back energy. And a very easy and practical way to make sense of this in my own personal life is, and maybe I got this from Steve Jobs, but I have my closet looks incredibly boring. I have one pair of jeans. I have two pairs of my little like athletic pants, a pair of wool pants, right? I have like 4 or 5, but they're all a similar color. And then I have, I don't know, maybe a dozen black t-shirts and a couple other colors. But like basically I wear the same thing almost every single day.
And they're all the same exact brand and size and pretty much color of t-shirts. So there's really no trying things on and deciding it doesn't work and going through the whole process.
Yeah. So like when it comes time to say like, what am I going to wear today? There's not even a thought. Like there's no wasted time. There's no wasted energy. There's a black shirt and there's a pair of pants that are gray or brown, and I put them on.
We even thought about this recently. We were looking at the laundry pile and like all the kids' socks and all the different types of socks that we have and trying to match them all up. And that's something that we're going to be doing, is just like going through and getting all the same socks.
Have one pair of socks that you wear, maybe 2. So even doing laundry becomes like, oh, where's the match for this? They're all match.
Right.
It's a sock. I'm just telling you, like, the amount of space it gives you in your life when you start to make these little adjustments and decluttering your clothes, your closet, your physical space is incredible, because there is such a thing as like decision fatigue. You know, so you can declutter even and simplify your meals to say, here's the 3 or 4 things that we cook on a regular basis. And I know some people are like, oh, I love food, I love cooking, I love having different variety. I'm sure, good. But how can you just incrementally simplify and shift to make it easier to gain back time, to gain back energy, to gain back space?
We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show.
Because when you do have a rotation of meals that are kind of your regular staples that your family likes, then your grocery list becomes the same, give or take. Maybe you're trying something new, you know, once a week or a couple times a month or whatever, but you have kind of that consistent list, and you're spending less time trying to determine what to get and shopping and all of the things. So
you probably spend less money too, because there's less things that go wasted.
Right. Yeah. A friend of mine, one of the ways that she simplified and saved time for herself is she started doing grocery delivery service. And so she would have all of her normal items saved, and then she just go through bing, bing, bing online, and somebody would bring it to her. So she saved a lot of time that way too.
I love it. Well, and the idea, the understanding behind like spaciousness is that's where good things come from. Like when you have space in your life to explore new possibilities, new potentials, a different way of spending your time and your energy, that's when you get to actually like create a different pattern, right? And so to understand that if we don't create the space, then it's going to be impossible, nearly impossible to create change, a new experience, financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever it is. Like you got to remove something. You can't go to put your Christmas decorations up in the same space. You got to remove the chair over to the side so your tree can go up. Same thing comes in this true for life.
So we can look at our physical space. That's like one aspect. We talked a little bit wardrobe, you know, our homes, our vehicles, that type of thing. Simplifying.
I mean, even just like, you know, all the furniture and just clutter, like just knick-knacky stuff. you know?
Yeah, just simplifying and really just getting down to like, what is it that I really love and enjoy in this space and want to keep there? And then what is just kind of there because it landed there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So does it add value? But what I'm hearing from you is, does it add value, right? Is this
right.
add value, or is it just taking up space?
Yeah. So that kind of brings me to the next one that I'm thinking of, which is our time, our calendar. There's a lot of things that can wind up on our calendar that don't really add value, that are just taking up space.
Can you give me an example?
So for example, I'm looking at my calendar right now, and, you know, sometimes what happens is we say yes to things and it's something that feels like an obligation that we don't really want to do. Maybe it's, you know, getting together with someone, or some type of volunteering at the school, or what have you.
Right.
And we see that showing up on our calendar, and it's taking up space where we could be doing some self-care or spending time with our family, or taking care of something else that needs to be done. But I think the thing to keep in mind is when we're saying yes to something, we're saying no to something else. And so being able to critically look, and I've done this with my calendar, and so I don't see a lot on here right now that feels that way, but I have had that experience in the past where I've overcommitted myself, and I've looked at my schedule and just went, like, why am I doing these things? Why am I saying yes to these things? It's not really adding value to my life, or it's not creating the spaciousness that I need to accomplish the things that I want to, or to have the time to take care of myself that I need to be doing right now.
So there's a cost and a reward to everything, right? There's sacrifice to a certain degree. And so what I basically heard you say was, I mean, when it comes to time, it's a lot of times about being able and being comfortable with to say, like, you're going to declutter the people you spend time with a little bit, right? I mean, I love a lot of different friends, but, you know, I have to protect my own time and energy enough to say, like, yeah, I would love to get together with you at some point, but maybe, you know, it's going to be once a month or once a quarter, because life is crazy. Life is busy. You got kids, you got sports, you got all these things going on. And so being okay with authentically saying that you might be even reducing or minimizing your circle of influence a little bit, right? To declutter that. So yeah. And then are we just in the pattern of doing, right? When you talk about time, a lot of things, I think we get into a pattern of checking off boxes. You know, yeah, I did this, I did that, I did that. Oh, okay. And that's all the things I'm supposed to do. But are you really, does it really add in value? And are you, if it is something you want to continue, like, you know, how you spend your Sundays or whatever it may be, you know, how can I re-engage with it in a way with enough intentionality to make sure that I'm getting out of it what I originally was motivated by to begin with? You know, one of the things that comes in my mind is our, you know, going to church, for example. I think a lot of people go to church and they check off the box and they go, I did it. I went, I sat, I listened, I received the message, but then nothing really changes on the other end of it. And to be able to say, I go to church because I'm really truly here to take the time to connect, to surrender some aspect of myself, to see where there is a chance for growth, and to say, how am I going to take this message and actually integrate it on the other side? And that's a whole different type of energy behind than just saying, hey, I know we went and we listened, and then we went home and watched the ball game or whatever, right? So, you know, the other thing, obviously, when it comes to decluttering time is obviously screens.
Yeah.
Which is one of the biggest declutters that we have just recently made. We don't hardly watch any TV in our home anyway, but we do a little bit of Netflix, you know, a little bit of Disney Plus. We started that new show last night, Limitless, with what's his name?
Limitless. I can't remember. He was in Thor.
Yeah, Thor. Yeah, Thor's on it. Anyway, you know, but we had an experience a couple weeks ago where we really were like, okay, let's evaluate our lives. Let's pull way back and decide, like, what are the absolute non-negotiable things that we want to engage with? Okay, cool. And what are the things that can go? And one of the things that we recognize, based upon the conversation that we had with Stephanie Fay podcast that we had just done recently, I think that was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was last week. It was about finding real connection in a high tech world.
Right. And so we authentically were like, hey, man, it's hard for us to be doing this work, to be teaching this work, and then continue to have our own personal social media accounts. So we, without really even saying anything or prepping for it, in a moment's time, we're just like, let's get rid of it. We'll have our business pages, integrated mindset. We have Sawyer's Painting, but Ryan Sawyer, Heidi Sawyer as Instagram and on this and on that, like they're gone.
Right.
We deleted them. And holy cow, space. And
yeah,
now we
space
want
and
somebody
intentionality, because the intentionality comes from keeping the pages for our businesses, the page for this podcast where we can serve our community and invite people into our private community outside of social media, and having that intention behind it and not getting on and just mindlessly scrolling. And
well, it wasn't like we're spending hours a day, but 5
Right.
minutes here, 15 minutes
Sure.
there. And I'm telling you, man, already it's been a week or so, something like that.
I think it's been about a week. Yeah.
And my mind is calmer. I am handling stress with more ease. I'm reading more, right? So what I'm putting in there is what I'm choosing to put in there rather than just what happens to be there from ads or otherwise, because the impressions that are happening in our mind as we are merging our consciousness with this little tiny screen on our phone constantly, it can be damaging to our psyche, can be damaging to our confidence. And I believe it's almost inevitable. Like if you're someone who is looking on a consistent basis at social media, like it's not doing you any good, right?
It's like trying to be on a healthy diet and then just walking into like a candy shop and saying, I'll just have whatever like happens to be in front of me. Because honestly, that's what we're doing is we're consuming it with our eyes, with our mind. We're seeing with our ears. We're hearing things, we're seeing things. And there's a lot of things that I've seen on social media. I'm like, man, I wish I didn't see that. I don't want
once
to
it's
know
in
this.
there, it's in there. Like that impression is right. The
Right.
impression is in there. And this is what I'm talking about here's the amazing piece is when you begin to, okay, so let's say you decluttered your closet a little bit. You declutter, maybe simplify your meals a little bit. You clean out your home, the knickknacks are removed. But then you start to incrementally, and I'm not saying do all these things at once because I think that would cause a little bit of disruption. But, this last one was huge because the time had passed. It had come and gone of us being on social media and building our followings and all these things as personal accounts. Like we couldn't see ourselves continuing it. Like it was time to move on and not judging anybody who's on social media because we still are as our businesses, obviously, and it has value. But the value, the cost versus reward to stay on there as personal pages just did not make sense anymore. And the space that has been brought back into our lives to connect, I've noticed myself connecting with the kids better. I've noticed you and I connecting better. I noticed this block of time in the afternoon on a Sunday where I'm like, I'm going to read my book for 2 hours. And I probably wouldn't have. I probably would have read it for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe. But then I would have got distracted. I would have pulled up social media for 10 or 15 minutes, and I would have maybe done something else. And I wouldn't even realize that same 2-hour window just breezed by without my awareness because I checked it 3 or 4 times, because checking football scores or whatever I'm doing, and I'm justifying, this is what I want to be doing right now. And maybe it is, but I'm telling you, based upon what we have learned from neuroscience perspective, like you may just be addicted to your phone. You may just be addicted to the dopamine hit that happens when you see social media and you got a like, or you didn't get, or somebody commented or whatever. And it has nothing to do with the actual activity.
Right.
But when you create the space, then you can be creative. Then you can be collaborative in that space. Then you can connect with loved ones, with yourself, with nature, with all these things that are like so much more fulfilling and so much more uplifting and so much healthier to our mind and yeah, to our psyche. So
Yeah, it's kind of like I think of it when I've had a period of time where I've eaten really, really clean. Like, no, this is not the case right now because we just came back from visiting family for Thanksgiving. So there was pie and all the things, right?
yeah,
And that's fun. But at times that I've eaten really clean for like a long stretch of time and eliminated, all the sugar and all of that. And then you go and eat an apple and it's like the most delicious thing you've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
That's how real life feels
Mm-hmm.
when you eliminate a lot of these other distractions that are kind of like a superficial sugar high.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. That real life becomes wondrous, fascinating, beautiful experience, and you want to be in it rather than find yourself naturally distracting yourself from it. So even when I deleted social media, our personal accounts, I also deleted my ESPN app that I tend to, check on scores. I have, still a handful of friends that are still in the coaching world. And so I'm always like, feel like, oh, I need to see how so-and-so did, or a former player of mine who plays in the NFL. I got to see how this person did, or Samson or Cooper Cup or whatever. Like I got to check their stats. No, I don't. No, I don't. Yeah. And what is left is this incredible realization of my own self and energy, right? To be able to then to invest that in an intentional way that makes a lasting impact, that leads to connection, that leads to creativity. I mean, this is the clearest I think the two of us have ever been only a week in. And again, we weren't social media junkies, but we were on there enough for it to impact us. And so, that was the conversation I even had with Stephanie, right? It was like, so what is the right amount of time? Like, what is the, and
yeah,
what for you, it's different for every single individual, is like to figure out what is the value, right? How much time are you willing to invest and how much value is it getting you in return? That goes for everything.
Yeah. And there's a bit of a shift that happens when you start getting into this habit of decluttering.
It's a habit.
Creating space. So when you start getting into the habit, it can start small. Like you said, it can start with just your car. Let's look in the middle console of the car and see what's there and what do I actually need to have in here and what it's just kind of landed here that doesn't belong anymore. And so decluttering that. But what happens is this shift in mindset from this idea that taking things away means I'm giving something up.
Yeah.
To taking things away means I'm gaining something.
Yeah. You focus on what you're gaining.
So it's a trade-off, and then to do a cost benefit analysis. If there is something in your life, whether that's an obligation on your calendar, like volunteering at the school or whatever it is that you have committed to doing that cost benefit analysis on, what am I getting from this? What is the benefit of this? Or how does it feel if it's something that I'm giving? Is there a benefit there? And then what's the cost? Well, the cost is maybe for an obligation, you're missing dinner with your family multiple nights a week. That's a pretty big cost.
Yeah.
And same thing for social media. That's really what we did there, is we looked at what's the benefit of having a personal social media account and what's the cost.
Well, and I think it's important for us to illuminate that when we begin to take inventory to a certain degree of our spaces and declutter them, physical and time and energy, that whatever was there, if it was an ingrained pattern at all, that there's going to be an experience of loss or even grief, because we get very ingrained in our patterns, and our bodies actually get addicted. I always got to have some science to it, right? Our bodies will actually get addicted to the hormones, the stress hormones, the chemicals that get released when we're doing the thing, whatever the thing is, right?
Yeah. Even things that are
we're used
stressful
to
to
doing,
us, right? Even things that are stressful to us. Like, I know a lot of people who watch a lot of negative news, right? And there's this chemical response happening in the body. Oh, that makes me so mad. Oh, I wish these people would be
and they
different.
get addicted to that.
Right. And so there's this addiction that's happening because that is the thing that provides that hormonal chemical release in the body.
And then there's this feeling like, well, I don't know what's going on. I need to know what's going on. Right.
A justification. Right.
Yeah. And maybe there is some merit to once a week checking the world news to know, what's happening so you can make decisions in business and otherwise. Sure.
And then deciding what's the best way to do that for you individually. Right. So noticing how you feel when you're doing it, and then going, what's the best way for me to stay connected with people or to be informed or whatever it may be.
So it's wonderful that we're talking about this from the level of, physical space, circle of influence, potentially even screen time. Now, those things can lead to a sense of loss or grief or this unknown. Now, go back to whatever brain science I have talked about in the past. Anything that's unknown or unfamiliar to the brain is going to be processed as a threat. So even the idea of you potentially, let's say, deleting your personal social media account, or no longer watching a football game on Sundays or whatever it is, that space that you then experience is going to feel like a threat. Even in the emotional, mental realm of, let's say we're decluttering our mind and we're decluttering a connection to our past self, some sort of a limiting belief, some sort of a thought pattern that I'm not good enough, or that I can't do that, or I'm not strong enough, or I'm not going to be healthy, or whatever is the story that has been told in your mind. When you begin to prune those, when you begin to let that stuff go and you begin to allow for a different possibility to exist, there's going to be this inner voice and angst, potentially even a little bit, or sense of grief because of that new potential, new possibility, until it becomes fortified. This is what we call it in the cycle of transformation. There's choice point. I want something to be different. I want to be a different version of myself. I want to experience life in a different way. The void, we got to create the space. We got to declutter, right? And then the climb is in the cycle of transformation is there to illustrate this idea that we have to intentionally fill that space with what we want, who we want to be, who we want to become, what we want to experience, even emotionally, right? So let's say we're experiencing a level of grief or sadness. Well, there has to be first the acknowledgement of that emotional experience pattern, mental and emotional pattern, right? And for that to be able to remove, we got to learn to practice a little bit of compassion. We show ourselves compassion. We even forgive our past selves for what we didn't know or who we were, yesterday meaning whenever that was in the past. And that allows for that space to be opened up for us to do the work to reaffirm and to recreate a new, different, upgraded version of ourselves. That legitimately what we're talking about is raising the level of consciousness. Like we all have a certain frequency or vibration that we resonate at based upon our experience. 200 is courage. If our dominant experience is one of courage, we're at 200. Well, there's all kinds of incredible experiences of ourselves that goes far beyond courage. Courage is like this doorway that leads to willingness and acceptance and reason and love and joy and peace and eventually enlightenment. And so when we begin to remove these limiting components of ourselves, it takes courage. to create that space to allow for yourself to have and receive a different concept of yourself that then welcomes in a different narrative, a more open and expansive, freeing emotional experience, right? Mm-hmm. And when we do that, there's a little potentially this experience of grief. And then in that space, when we begin to let go of certain thoughts, certain emotions, constrictive experiences, sensations inside of our body, we show them compassion and we open ourselves up. We call surrendering and shifting. That's legitimately, okay, a 5-minute dissertation on how to raise your own consciousness. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, there's a million things that go into that conversation, but what we're talking about is raising at which our dominant emotional state is. Mm-hmm. Our dominant emotional, mental and emotional state, which is our thoughts and our feelings combined. Raising the dominance of that. What is dominant? I mean.
And I think you can take that back to just using get familiar with doing this in the physical, then use that as sort of a analogy or an example of what you would do mentally and emotionally, because we do a lot of just shoving things under the bed emotionally, where we kind of tuck it away or sort of paper over it. And what it takes to be able to start to create that spaciousness is exactly what you said. It's actually looking at the thing. So it's actually taking it out and looking at what's there, deciding that it no longer serves you, and creating that space to have a different experience. And that's what takes the courage, is to pull those things out of the unseen spaces and go, okay, I'm going to bring this into the light and actually decide to let this thing go.
Yeah. So these two things are potentially, you'll notice as you really pay attention and you're aware and your awareness grows, is that the more you emotionally evolve and transcend and raise a higher level of consciousness, the less attached you will be to certain physical things, old patterns and behaviors, and even, tangible things that maybe are cluttered up your space. You'll look at something. This is what has been my experience anyway, where I'm more apt to start with the spiritual realm and do this work backwards as to most. Most are doing what you say, and I think it's 100% spot on. You start with the physical. Maybe you're even losing 10 pounds, right? You're changing your body a little bit, right? You're eating better. You're moving more. You're dusting your home and cleaning the space. You're moving some furniture around, whatever you're doing. And then it kind of works to the emotional work, and eventually it lands in the spiritual. I've been one that kind of has flipped the model to where then I'm creating space or a practice that allows for me to, let's say, let go of who I think I am. And every time I let go and I peel back the veil and I peel away a layer of who I am actually not, then I have a deeper connection to my spiritual experience, meaning that I have a deeper connection to God consciousness. I am more aware of how that is playing out in my life, and I have this visceral experience to it. And then because of that spiritual work and that emotional work, I look at something in my physical space and I'm like, what is that doing there?
Yeah. Or you can look at a football jersey and you can say, this old football jersey, this is not me. Right. I can let this go.
Right. That I no longer have any reason to hold, because the version of me that thought it was a good idea to keep this physical thing is no longer present in this experience of my life. And so when I look at the thing, I'm like, I have no attachment to it. Which, when we begin to live with a place of non-attachment, this is when we begin to experience more freedom.
And some people take that to the extreme, right? They go into this idea of being a spiritual person, and they take it to the extreme of, okay, I don't need any material possessions and all of that.
And That's not what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a middle road.
Yeah.
There's a
Well,
middle.
I mean, we're still in the world. It's the goal is to be in the world, but not of the world. And integration is always the answer. There's a fine line in the middle ground for everything. I can be incredibly spiritual and not be attached to any physical thing in the world, my vehicle or my home or whatever. But at the same time, it still is part of being basic human is that I desire, a roof over my head, warmth, food. I desire connection, so I still want these things. I just don't source my sense of being okay from them.
Yeah. And that's when you get to the place where then practicing this helps you to realize, okay, I let that thing go, whatever it is, physical, emotional, and I let that go and I'm still okay.
I'm still okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a really powerful place to be, because now you're creating space to look at, what do I want to create in my life? What's the experience I want to have? And right now I have this whole page full of notes from this conversation. And it's like turning the page when you can create spaciousness in your life. Because if I try to write more notes on this page, it's already filled up with words. It's really hard it gets really muddy. So creating spaciousness in your life is like turning to a blank page, and a blank page is a really beautiful thing, because it means that now you have this opportunity to create from. And it makes me think even of the seasons right now, with the trees dropping all of their leaves, creating space to go inward, to generate that energy inside, and then to bloom and blossom out in the spring.
All right. I think that's a wonderful concept of like a winter mentality, right? That we use this time of year from a spiritual, emotional component, even physical potentially, is to go inward, to take inventory, to declutter, and to create more space to be able then to reemerge in the spring as a new version of ourselves, to step back out, right? I think the seasons have a very important component into our own evolution as human beings and as spirits, to be able to experience a greater sense of who we truly are. Every time we have a new experience of ourselves, because this can come back to a little bit of brain science and a little bit of spirituality. Every time we remove something and then we intentionally draw in something new, a new concept of ourselves, a new practice, a new behavior, a new physical thing, we are having a new experience. And experience is what shapes the actual construct of our brain. When we have a new experience, we're now a greater being, because with the new experience, whether the experience is pleasurable or not, because you had this experience and you got to the other side of it, you now are a greater expression of yourself, of your soul. Like you are more wise, right? And so
you've made new connections, because
you've made new connections, you've connected new dots, because the experience is so incredibly important. Recently, I was on a coaching call with a group that I'm, going through the integrated mindset with, and we were talking about how failure is this illusion of our mind, and really what we're worried about is social rejection. It has nothing to actually do with this idea that we have failed. It's just part of our social brain. And so we were trying to unpack and change the verbiage and the narrative around this idea you have to fail to succeed. A lot of people say this, in especially this self-development world. They say you have to fail to succeed. And what we came to this conclusion on, and one of the members said this, it wasn't me who came up with it, but it was one of the members who said that we have to experience to succeed. We have to experience
I love that.
Happiness. Like growth comes from experience. And so if you look at your life and your physical space, your emotional space, your spiritual life, your world, if there's not space, then you're not going to be able to create a new experience. If you don't create new experiences for yourself, you're not going to be able to evolve and be a higher expression. And therefore, you're going to continue to experience the same thing. over and over. And you get caught in a rut and may even potentially be kind of feeling like you're slipping backwards over the course of time. Because it is within that space that we are creating that we are able to explore and to be open. And a really important component of this is a level of humility. In the emotional and spiritual world, a level of humility would say that I don't know. I have this beginner's mind, and that allows for our brain to open up to see new possibilities, to say like a sense of wonder, like how is this for me? What else is possible? But when I have this very kind of predetermined fixed mindset that I think I know how the world works, I think I know who I am, I think I even, with this, it's one of the things we have to be careful of within the spiritual world or within religion, within, that type of study, is that we think we know. But in all reality, our little finite minds have no idea of what the infinite truly is, the divine, this bigger thing. So to come into this space or create this space from a level of beginner's mind, from a level of wonder, to say from a level of humility, of compassion and humility, to say like, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you saying being open. Yeah.
Rather than being closed, which will allow us to be emergent systems rather than predetermined, rather than saying, I am who I am.
Yeah.
No, you are who you've chose to be again in this moment, because it's a choice. And we can make a different choice.
I like to get curious about what I think I know all the time.
Yeah, be more curious about what you don't know than what you think you know. Right. And what we're talking about, and you've said this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks in our own personal life, is I want to question everything.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Question everything. Why is this here? Yeah. Why is that there? Why do I think that way? Why do I feel that way?
I just looked over my desk and I just noticed like 9 things that could be removed.
I'll be down there with a cardboard box. And
right. I know. You don't even need that. I was going to throw it in the garbage. You don't even need it.
Yeah. So a couple of things that we went over just to kind of recap. We talked about simplifying your environment. So simplifying the physical space, decluttering there, creating some space by looking at your wardrobe, looking at your home, maybe looking at your vehicle and things that are no longer serving you there that could either bless somebody else or just time to go. Yeah. A lot of times we hold on to things because they have an emotional attachment, like you said. So just questioning that, is this something that actually represents me right now? Or is this from a past version of myself? Looking at our time and our commitments, our calendars, the way that we spend our time, maybe simplifying how we prep our meals, the people that we're spending time around. And then less inputs as far as things like, that we're taking in to our mental space, like social media, TV shows, news, that type of thing. And then consciously choosing what we are going to be putting in there instead, how we're going to be spending our time, who we're spending our time with, where we're focusing our attention, and making sure that those choices support the version of you that you want to step into. So taking inventory as you kind of look incrementally, one by one, at these different areas and doing that cost benefit analysis and saying, what am I getting from this and what's it costing me? Yeah. And what's the net? Is it positive or negative? And then that will give you, whether it's time to let that thing go or not. And then having that mindset shift from giving something up means I'm losing something, or letting go of something means I'm losing something, to I'm gaining something instead.
Yeah. And be curious about what that could potentially be. You might not know what that is out of the gate. You might have to be in that space long enough to find it.
Yeah.
And that's what I have found, is that you're not going to potentially know what you're gaining. And you're not going to connect the dots looking anywhere but backwards. So you have to go through that unknown and be in that space long enough to derive the incredible gift on the other end of it. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable and be courageous enough to let go of things and be in that unknown and be in that spaciousness long enough to birth a new version, a new concept of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you do, it's worth it. I'm just
Yeah.
Take my advice. I'm telling you, create space in your life and you will create a new experience. You'll have a new concept of yourself and you're going to thank yourself for it, no matter how uncomfortable it may be.
Yeah. I can't wait to continue this conversation inside our community. And if you're not already a member of the Integrated Human Performance community, it is a private community outside of social media. There's a separate app for it. And we like to continue these conversations about things that we talk about here on the podcast with our community members. And we actually have some really exciting events and community gatherings and workshops and great things that we're doing over there. So I would encourage you to go to the link in the show notes and join our community and be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah, I want to just hit on that real fast. So the community is up to almost 200 people right now. And we have been lightly building it the last 6 months or so. How long has it been there? Something like that? Maybe four months?
Yeah.
4 months? Yeah, 4 months maybe. So I think it's only been there about 4 months. And going into 2023, even into December this month, we are going to start to do workshops for free, online stuff, practices like meditations. We're legitimately, really, truly going to, and we're excited about it. Like, this is our passion. Heidi and I are going to build this community in a way that is a little bit old school, in person, connecting, right? You know what I mean? We're going to do things like, hey, let's go snowshoeing. Let's meet up and go snowshoeing on a Saturday, whatever it is. And, these workshops that we're going to be doing, little 2-hour networking, maybe we get together and we, really get connected to our future. We get connected to a sense of confidence. We do some sort of exercise or whatever. This will only be available to people inside of our community, and a good handful of these will be free to integrate.
Yeah, we did the free morning routine challenge a few months back. That was really popular. And yeah, we're just excited to cultivate relationship within the community. And I think that's sort of where social media started out. And it's a ways away from that now for a lot of people. And so we want to create a safe space where we can have conversations about growth and what it looks like to be taking control as the leader of your own life and setting that example for your family and for those that you lead. So we're really excited about
this is one last little piece, is we both have noticed and talked about it, how we actually are desiring more real, true in-person connection since removing our personal social media pages. It's like, well, people aren't going to know what we're doing. We don't know what they're doing. We should get together with them and see what they're doing.
Yeah. Imagine that. Pick up the phone and call.
And that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be in community. We're supposed to be around each other and learn from each other. And that's what we're going to be doing here. So please join. You won't be disappointed. So that's that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
So that's the authentic action. Declutter one thing.
Start small, just make one shift. And we're going to start a conversation in the community so that people can share what it is that they are decluttering, how they're creating space in their life. And we want you to be a part of that conversation. So we appreciate you. Thanks for listening today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for listening. Your support of the show means the world to us. If you could leave us a rating and review and share this show with someone who you think could find value in it, we would be so grateful. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first, alignment matters, and the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.